I'm Jessica Midden for IB Times TV, reporting from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and joining me today is Joe Greco of Meridian. Now, this is definitely a busy week when you do look at the economic calendar and more earnings. We do have that October jobs report on Friday, but in company news, we did have BlackBerry today say they're going to replace their CEO, and they're sort of revamping their plans. They originally said they might go private. Now, we don't really know what's going to happen. When you're an investor and you do look at a company like that, what do you really look for, and what do you think the future is for BlackBerry?
Well, clearly the big question is what's that underlying value, and is that value better in pieces? What are those pieces? And with, Ibanks looking at this for over a year and a half and no one really stepping forward, I tend to think that going private is really not an option. It's kind of more being sold to whoever's going to pay, a price. And that price literally could just be a price. So we've seen the stock get shredded, and clearly here today on that news, it seems like it's pushing the stock price lower, but in reality it should pave the way for perhaps leadership that's a little bit more agreeable to terms that are realistic with what the market will bear. And at this point in time, it's very unrealistic to expect something in the double digits for that company, whether as a whole or in part.
Moving over to some more exciting company news, Twitter is going to have their IPO, and a lot of people are expecting that to happen this Thursday at the New York Stock Exchange. What do you think that it will really be like with Twitter down here? Because originally a lot of tech companies would go to the NASDAQ, and now it's a big deal that Twitter is coming over here.
Well, let's not, avoid the obvious. The last big social media presence that went to market, had a tremendous trip right out of the gate there, and I think investors are kind of over it now because of what they've been able to do quarter over quarter. But focusing on Twitter and their IPO Thursday, hotly contested. They've raised the indicated window. It's anticipated books are going to be closed today for the opening on Thursday, so we'll have a little bit of a gap there to really figure out where this stock's going to land. It is important to be on the New York. I mean, the brand recognition alone, the fact that we're combining with ICE, and there's going to be tons of potential there for the marketplace and the offering to clients, is very important to the future of the NYSE and what that brand is going to bring to listed companies. But in the end, it's also, it's an unknown. Yeah, it's a technology company to some extent. It's an advertising vehicle to some extent. It's social media. It's news aggregation. It's what are people thinking in hyperspeed? So it's all of that, and it's really sorting that out is going to be the fun part of it. But how the stock is going to trade, I think it's going to do very well out of the blocks.
Moving over to earnings news, we are getting Tesla's earnings on Tuesday after the market closes. And when you look at companies like Ford and GM, they were struggling in Europe, but Tesla's a little bit of a different kind of company. When you're an investor, what do you look for a company like Tesla?
Very interesting. Don't cover the company, don't own shares. I'm a big believer in what they're trying to do. I think Elon Musk is not only a pioneer, but one of those great entrepreneurs that's going to be in the history books as putting his money and all of his reputation where his mouth is, and standing behind his products and his ideas. It's just so interesting to think that someone could spend six figures on a car that didn't do well in the $30,000, $40,000 model from the Toyotas, the Fords, and the those mass producing companies. But I do think Tesla has a tremendous quasi cult like following brewing, and that to me has quite a bit of owns quite a bit of that markup in the stock price. Now, what does that mean? Well, tomorrow we're going to find out, are they actually really putting the rubber on the road in terms of both sales, guidance, and what that loyalty is going to look like, and for the future. What is the economy? What are the incentives going to be like? I mean, we've heard about several states already signing some pacts about emissions for automobiles through 2020, and what that means for credits that Tesla's already receiving in California or will receive in states like New York. What's that going to look like in Europe, who's always been very forward-thinking from a green perspective? So I think we get a really nice report out of them tomorrow, and I'd really like to see some forward guidance that's very strong going into year-end for Tesla.
And finally, with the October jobs report that is coming out on Friday, a lot of people like to look at the average hours worked, the hourly rates, the participation rate. What kind of stands out to you when that report does come out?
Really all of it, because it's telling a story that's much different than just that one headline metric or several metrics that come out in different forms over the course of the month. But I really want to see the drill down of what are people really doing, because the straw poll that I keep doing doesn't show the type of rosy improvement that seems to be the theme coming out of the BLS or out of Washington or really out of anyone that says anything about payrolls or unemployment or employment. So for me, it's going to be that drill down and really seeing, will sentiment be strong enough to carry retail into the holiday season, will sentiment be strong enough to improve upon, or will the numbers be strong enough to improve upon sentiment for people to take on more, not only more consumer debt, which is, those low thousand, couple hundred, couple $1,000s at a clip, but also the bigger ticket purchase items, which is really what'll make the the recovery strong, and that's of course homes, automobiles to an extent, but really homes and real estate, and then of course investment dollars. We need to have the baton passed off at some point. The Fed can't buy forever.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for your insight. That's Joe Greco of Meridian, and I'm Jessica Minton for IB Times TV.